What events led to the first battle of the Revolutionary War? When we fly the American flag on the 4th of July, it's important to remember that the road to independence was a long one for the colonists. They had worked hard to establish their lives in America and had grown increasingly frustrated with the taxes and laws imposed on them by the British government. Leaders from the 13 colonies decided to meet to discuss their options. So, in September of 1774, representatives from each of the colonies except Georgia met in Philadelphia. They expressed their outrage over the idea of being taxed without representation in Parliament and over new laws that limited their free speech and free trade. This meeting was known as the First Continental Congress. They voted to stop all trade with Britain until the Intolerable Acts, a series of punitive laws passed by Parliament after the Boston Tea Party, were repealed. As the First Continental Congress came to a close on October 26, 1774, members of the Congress made the decision to meet again in May of 1775 if the British Parliament refused to lift the Intolerable Acts. When Parliament heard about the colonies' trade boycott, instead of repealing the Intolerable Acts, they passed more laws, adding more limits on colonial trade. They also sent more British soldiers to the colonies. In response, the colonists formed militias, groups of armed men. Colonial towns also created bands of Minutemen to assist the militias. These were men who were ready to fight at a minute's notice. From the fall of 1774 until the spring of 1775, tensions continued to brew between the American colonists and the British. Informants and spies had alerted the British about the militias and their stockpiles of guns and gunpowder. The British decided to fight back by rounding up the colonial leaders of the resistance and seizing all of the guns and gunpowder they could find. They set their sights on the area near Boston. But the colonists knew the British were coming. The colonists also had spies and men ready to ride their horses through the countryside warning of British raids. In April of 1775, British General Thomas Gage had received orders to seize the weapon stockpiles and to arrest the Patriot leaders thought to be hiding outside of Boston. General Gage hoped to avoid bloodshed and planned a surprise attack on Lexington for April 18th. Silversmith Paul Revere, along with Patriots William Dawes and Samuel Prescott, heard of the impending attack and sounded the alarm, riding to Lexington and Concord to alert local militias and persuade rebel leaders John Hancock and Samuel Adams to leave the city for their safety. By daybreak on April 19, 1775, 700 British soldiers had made their way to Lexington. They were met by a militia of about 77 militiamen. Shots were fired. To this day, no one knows who fired first. By the end of the battle, 8 colonists were dead and 10 were wounded. The red-coated British soldiers marched on to Concord. As they crossed the North Bridge on the outside of town, they were confronted by a large group of militiamen guarding the bridge. The colonists fired shots. Although many men on both sides died during the battle, the colonists were able to defeat the redcoats, who retreated back to Boston. At the time, neither the rebel colonists nor the British redcoats recognized the significance of the battles of Lexington and Concord, but these skirmishes turned out to be the first battles of the American Revolution.